What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here at GSD Studios. First off, thank you so much for checking out today's content. I'll make this extremely fast, but I need to plug our sponsors that make this show possible. Our first sponsor is PerfectStormNow.com, by far the most effective and affordable real estate agent website and database platform in the industry. It is the system I use to sell 50 plus homes every single month. Check it out at www.perfectstormnow.com. Our second sponsor is my personal 90-day mastery bootcamp, which is, again, my personal real estate agent mentorship program where we spend 90 days together, 12 live sessions. You get daily access to me inside the program. You guys, we go so extremely in-depth. There's nothing that's incomplete about this program. You're going to get all the tools that you need to go out there and crush it inside your real estate business. Make sure to go check us out, www.90daymastery.com. You can watch in-depth videos of exactly what's covered to see if the program is for you. See all the raving testimonials we have from all of the amazing agents and clients that went through the program. So make sure to check us out, www.90daymastery.com. All right, you guys, let's jump on into today's content. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another in-office, live in the studio podcast here today. Today, you guys, we had an awesome guest on the show, so I'm really stoked and excited to have on the show. This is actually my real estate team manager. Really, if you break it down today, she's really the team leader of the team. You know, I know on paper out there, you know, I'm the team leader of the team, but she, like I said, man, she really runs the show, and you know, it's really her team. I just show up once in a while and probably do more damage than I do good, man. So really stoked to have our guest on today, Ashley Belliveau. What we're going to be going through today, you guys, is systems that we have in place, from support staff, from our listing coordinators, transaction coordinators, how we inspect what we expect, how we make sure mistakes don't happen, as well as initial agent training, competitions that we do, accountability, agent meetings. We're going to go deep into all that stuff today. So it's going to be an epic, awesome interview where you get a hardcore peek into what we do internally inside my real estate team. All right, what's up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD mode interview where every single week we interview top entrepreneurs and just straight up top badasses out there dominating their space. These are people choosing to not live a life of mediocrity, but instead to go out there and create amazing, epic, big lives for themselves and their family, as well as have a large impact on other people's lives while they exist. So today, you guys, we got a very special guest on the show, somebody that has been close to me and I've known for a lot of years. Really, when people come to me like, oh man, you got such an awesome real estate team. At the end of the day, it's really not my real estate team. It's our guest real estate team that we're going to be interviewing today on the show. But our guest today is actually our general manager, CEO, whatever title you want to give her. Again, she really runs the whole show here inside our real estate group, inside our real estate team at Revisto Real Estate Group. So stoked and honored to have Ashley Belliveau on the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
So she's a little nervous doing this. A lot of people are, but we'll have some fun with it, dude. So stoked to have you on, dude.
Thank you. Sort of stoked to be here.
So I wanted to have you on, because we get a lot of questions as far as internal workings of a real estate team, right? I mean, when you're an individual agent, you're out there working with your buyers, working with your sellers, all of that stuff, it's kind of one thing. But then as you start expanding, you start hiring transaction coordinators, listing coordinators, buyers agents, listing agents, ISAs, all these different roles. It becomes really hard to manage, and it comes down to systems and processes. So, wanted to have you in just so we could kind of dial through that stuff. And a lot of people come to me like, well, Josh, what do you do in your transaction coordinating department? I'm like, hold on, let me go ask Ashley, because I have no damn clue anymore, right? Really just want to kind of go in and cover that, but just give everybody that, and I know you do so many things in the real estate team, but just kind of give everybody an idea of, what you do inside the real estate team today, like your kind of main roles inside our company.
So today I kind of manage and oversee the TCs, and I train and help the new agents as they come on, go through the new agent training and ongoing training, and kind of help them build up their business too now. So those are my roles, basically. Yep.
And so those of you that are watching, listen to this, Ashley was my first hire ever So which has been what, like a decade now,
Yeah.
huh? Yeah, like 10 years
10
ago.
years.
So I got to the point where closing a lot of deals, and I'm not good with paperwork. I'm not good with organization.
No.
I'm sloppy as any human being on this planet. And, I knew I needed somebody to come in and start helping with that. And then it's just transitioned and it kind of grown for the years. So Ashley's kind of witnessed and seen every aspect of it. And the cool thing, too, is she's seen every market that's out there. When we first started together, it was a traditional market, when the market was out here still booming somewhat in Phoenix, and then the bottom fell out and we had to transition into REOs, short sales, and transition back out into the traditional marketplace. So again, if you guys have any questions on that, if you are watching this on the Facebook Live group, again, just comment any questions that you guys have. And if you're listening to this and watching this, you're not in the Facebook group at gsdmode.com, there's a big button on the front page where you can click that, jump into the request to be into the free Facebook group where you can watch these stream live as well. But kind of break down, what does our structure look like today, right? Because we've really segmented it out. Like listing coordinator, things like that. Like kind of break it down of what that looks like on the support staff side.
So when we first started out, me singularly handled listings and the transaction side. It was all in one. And then as we grew, we'd add on another TC, and same thing. They would handle the listings and the escrows of each agent. We separated it out per each agent, and it kind of came to realize that it's hard to be great at one thing when you're trying to do too many things, and when you're trying to jump into different things. Like I have to have my listing mindset on. I have to have my escrow mindset on. So we realized that separating those things out really affected the capacity of what a TC could do. If a TC was just handling escrows, that's all. They didn't have to change mindset from one to the other. And the listings, because it's quite a bit easier, a little less mind work. You get through the listing, the input and everything that goes on with it. Once it's done, it's kind of done, and you can move on to the next. So we have it separated to where we have two TCs. We split. Each one has their own agents. We don't ever intertwine. If each TC has their own agent, and then we have a listing coordinator that handles the listings for everybody, all the agents at this point. So her capacity is a little bit bigger because the listings don't take as much time. And I think that works now. That's a good structure, keeping it separated. And then from there, as we grow, each TC will be the same. New agents will go over to new TCs and so on.
Well, and we've kind of tried every model I think
have
that's existed on the planet.
Definitely have.
And I think that's one thing that team leaders need to understand is it's okay to change and try new models. It's kind of how it needs to go, because I don't know if there's a perfect model for everybody.
Right.
But it definitely, since you decided to make this change, it's increased our capacity so much. I see teams doing the same production that we do that takes 6 support staff members.
Yeah.
And we only have 3. So let's kind of then talk about, let's break that up. So when it comes to our listing coordination position, our agents go out there, they get the listing signed, and then kind of what happens? Just walk everybody through our processes.
So then they will email it over to our listing coordinator. She takes it and runs from there. She looks through it first and foremost to make sure it's right. There's always errors. So she fixes those errors, gets with the clients to fix those errors, gets with the agent to fix those errors before she turns it into the broker. She'll turn it into the broker, and then she will order pictures, order signs, order lock boxes. Once all that's done and that process is done, then we can go live on the market. So she handles the input into the MLS for the agents. She handles lockbox reports. Agents want to know who's going in and out of the house, so she handles that, keeping them updated on that. She handles our feedback site, manages that, and makes sure all the feedback's coming in that the agents want to get, so they can then give to their sellers.
So if anybody has a kind of a question of like what is the capacity with that, I think when I was talking to Elena, our listing coordinator last week, I think it was something like 20 listings she had last week, or so. I know
it was a rough week.
I know we've been kind of averaging about 15 new listings a week, and she got 20. But like, what do you see with that? Just to give our listeners and our audience kind of an expectation of if they want to segment this process, like what should they expect as far as capacity listings per week that a good listing coordinator can handle?
I would say about 20. Elena is kind of a fluke, and she can handle a lot more than a lot of people can. So I would really say 20, because each listing is about 3 to 4 hours. So, and some of those are going to carry on into the next week, depending on, they're not ready, because not everything goes in that exact order. Sometimes you get a listing agreement and you have to sit on it for a couple weeks till the house is ready. So I would say really 20 is probably their capacity with all that we do on them.
Yeah, because more than, like you said too, it's not just, a lot of it is once it's listed, but then with the lockbox reports, we run them every Monday and send them out to the agents, so that's kind of an ongoing.
Yeah, that's ongoing. And maintenance on the feedback site's kind of ongoing. There's always little changes to make there. Price change happens. Well, it has to happen on that site too. So those little changes are maintenance. They're quick maintenance. And for somebody that's been doing it a long time, it's going to take a few seconds at a time.
Yeah, so in real estate agents watching and listening to this, 3 to 4 hours for the listing input plus those other changes. So what would you think average listing between the changes and the lockbox pulling reports? Is that 4 or 5 hours over the life of listing?
Probably over the life of the listing, the listing period. Yeah.
So
5 hours.
4 and 5 hours, easily if you're intentional on the realtor side, if you're picking up that phone, you can be setting appointments in that time, right? So
That's
what you may pay somebody $200 or $300 to do that work for you could create $7,000 in commissions for you. And we really want to do everything with our agents, where our agents are only focused on activities that lead to appointments and of course contract negotiation, and take all that stuff off their plate. So what kind of systems do we use on the listing side? I know you talked about our showing stuff, but then as far as tracking, and we use Google Drive heavily, but what other, because to be honest, a lot of these systems I don't even know what we use, because you're the one overseeing them and building them, but like what do we, walk us through that?
So, really we use the Google Drive. We have an actual document of where we have each and every listing for each agent. On that spreadsheet, I'm a spreadsheet geek. Sorry, that's kind of my systems, because I find a lot of other systems are too many steps and too involved when I can just put it all on one spreadsheet, and in my head it works, and luckily the girls, it seems to work too. So we have a spreadsheet. We've got the address, we've got the lockbox number, we've got the CBS code and serial number for those boxes, which we'd have to give to inspectors and such. So those things are all found in one spot. So anybody on the team can go to this one sheet and find anything they need. An agent can call on the phone and say, oh my goodness, this listing, there's something wrong with the lockbox. I need information on it right now. Here's the spreadsheet. They can go to that agent's name and they can find anything on that listing that they need. So it's all on one spreadsheet, every agent. So we use that system. We use Showing Suite is what we use for feedback. Some the MLS has one too that some agents are using now for feedback. So not all of them are using that, but we use Showing Suite. It's pretty simple. You plug in the information right away as soon as the listing goes live, and it automatically sends agents requests for feedback. Sends it 5 times. If they don't reply within 5 times, it boots it out. And then we turn all of our broker uses SkySlope for documents. That's where we turn it into it. They can review it and approve it. We can also see there what's required still, what hasn't been turned in. The agents have access to that too, so they can always go in and see if they don't want to bother the listing coordinator to see what's left to be turned in. And then of course our lockbox system, which here in Arizona is Supra. It's where we run our reports out of, and it keeps track of everything for us.
All right, badass. So then when it comes to the transaction management, so this is basically whether it's a listing or a buyer client, it's essentially once it has an executed purchase contract and it's entering escrow. And I know we have kind of our 17-point contract to close process that we follow. Kind of walk us through what that looks like. And then also, what is the reasoning that you chose to segment it, or instead of like each TC getting every other file, going to, hey, you're assigned these particular agents?
I'll start there, because I think that's super important, because you work with these agents all the time, and each agent is so different. I don't care if they've been in the business for a month or 10 years, they have different wants and needs. And when you work with them long enough, you build a relationship, and it gets really easy. You know exactly what this person wants, and you don't have to wonder. They don't have to wonder. They don't have to remind you. So I think that having an agent and a TC pair up is that's something I wouldn't change ever. They just build really good relationships, and they end up working better together that way. I totally forgot what your first question was.
Yeah. So and then before we go into the second question is, because like you said, everybody's so different, and those of you that are team leaders, really when you become a team leader, or in Ashley's position, which is really a team leader, if you will, you have your agents on your team are really a client. Right? And I know a lot of coaches will sit there and say, I'll never use that term. It's a business-to-business relationship. But at the end of the day, your agents are your clients. So you have your buyer and seller clients plus your agents that are clients, and you want to deliver brilliant experiences for each. So like I was the kind of guy that I would hand, Ashley's always done all my transaction management when I was selling. It was like, here's everything, you take care of it. If the roof's on fire, call me. Otherwise, don't call me, right? Like take care of it. And then we have other agents that just don't want to let go. They want to be more involved in the process. And so everybody's so different. And even though we may have our systems, we also can kind of roll with the punches and then adapt that to what their needs are individually to make it the experience that they want. So
exactly.
So then just kind of walk us through same kind of thing, the processes, what the support staff, transaction coordinators are responsible for, what the agent's responsible for, and then we'll kind of after that go into systems.
So the TC will really take over from there for the most part. The agent will turn the contract into the TC. The TC, same thing, kind of quality checks the contract, lets them know if there's anything missing, any initials. We never have
missed initials.
Never. Never. That doesn't even happen.
Us agents were sloppy mofos.
Sloppiest. So they'll check all that through. And, ideally, we want the agents to relinquish as much responsibility as possible because it does free up their time to go do those money-making activities. So in an ideal world, when that agent turns in their contract, they're also going to hand over all the client's information. So the TC can really 100% take over from there because it's just going to be easier for everybody. So the TC will order inspections. They'll order they'll contract title and the lender. They'll open escrow. They'll get earnest money over to title, all while being in communication with the buyer, to find out when they want to do inspections, to find out how they want to get their earnest money delivered to title. So once inspections are set, the TC lets the agent know, hey, this is when it's going to be. You can be there if you want to be there. Obviously, the TC won't go to the inspections or anything. Once the inspection report comes back in, then the TC will send it to the agent, let them know, hey, you have until this day to send in your repair request. And we let the agent write that repair request because they're going to be in the best contact with their buyer. They're going to they can have those conversations of what we should do, what we shouldn't do, because basically that's another negotiation phase, and we don't want the TCs negotiating anything. We want the agents to handle the negotiations. So the agent and buyer will go over what they want to do. Now our TCs can write the BINSers, the repair requests. They can, but they need guidance from the agent on how to do that, on what their buyer really wants to do. So then the TC will handle sending the repair request over to the agent, making sure they get it back in the right timeline that they should be, seeing where the buyer wants to go from there. And then from there, it's making sure that they're in constant contact with title, with the lender, to make sure that all the other timelines now are being met. Did we get appraisal when we were supposed to? Did we get our title report when we were supposed to? Making sure the buyer knows what the timelines look like and that they're on the same page, and keeping the agent on track too. It's a lot of helping the agent to stay on track because they're out doing other money making activities, and they're the timelines might not be the first things on their mind. So it is the first thing on the TC's mind, and then once they get to the home run, they get to closing, the TC will make sure that the buyers are ready and scheduled to sign. Make sure that the agent sets up the walkthrough because the agent does the final walkthrough with the buyers, and the TC will, in between, anytime there's changes, there's addendums, the TCs can handle all of that stuff. Don't need the agents to get involved in any of that stuff. I mean, the negotiation part of it, if we're changing purchase price because of an appraisal or something, the agent's probably going to handle those negotiations, but the TC's got all the back end, boring, monotonous, fill out this paper, send it to this person, fill out this paper, send it to this person. Things that agents aren't great at anyway. Agents are great at talking, they're great at negotiating, they're great at putting deals together, and then they can go back out and do some more of that and let the TCs handle all the back end stuff.
Yep, love it. So then, Kind of on the same question I asked earlier on the listing coordinating side. I mean, if you were to break it down hours per file on an average, what does that look like? 10 hours, 15 hours?
I would say probably somewhere in between 10 and 15. I'd probably say 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're an agent out there closing 4 deals a month, what's that, 48 hours?
Yeah.
I mean, how many appointments can you go on and set in 48 hours, right?
Boatload.
Again, it's I don't know if there's a better ROI in this business than hiring good people in your support staff team. I mean, it's just insane. So now I know that we've hired unlicensed, we've had licensed. We really like our support staff and transaction, especially the transaction coordinator, to be licensed. What's the theory on that?
Really only legally, because they can legally do a little bit more than an unlicensed person can do. They can talk with the other agent and let them know, what our appraisal came in at, things like that. Whereas if they're not licensed, they can't technically do that stuff. They can still write the documents, but they can't talk about the documents. They can't tell the buyer what the documents is about. Whereas someone licensed can, they can send over an addendum to somebody and they can explain it to them. They can say, this is what this addendum says, this is what it means for you, this is why we're doing this. An unlicensed person can't. So it just takes a little more off of the agent's plate, because that's simple stuff that the agent doesn't need to do, and an unlicensed person understands that. They understand what that addendum's for, where it's going, why it's doing. They just can't say it. So licensed makes things easier and takes one more thing off the agent's plate, which is kind of our end goal, is take as much off we can.
Yep, love it. So then, again, like we talked about on the listing side, systems that we utilize. I know you mentioned that our broker has SkySlope, which we're mandated to use. I mean, it's a good system. It's a really good system. Actually, the owner of the system, Tyler Smith, who I just found this out recently. I had no idea who's the owner of it, and I think Troy's trying to get him on the podcast. But he won the 30 under 30 with the same year I did. When we all connected, and in Chicago when we had won that, and but he developed that system and it's just taken off. So it's pretty. I was really stoked when I heard all of that. So we have SkySlope, of course, on there. But what are some of the other systems that we utilize? Again, like you said, I know you love Google Drive and love having those so everybody can communicate. So if somebody's out sick, then somebody else can fill in. Like, what do some of the systems look like that we utilize on that end?
On the buyer side. So again, I use a Google Doc, and this one's a little more in depth for escrows because there's a little more information that you need. So I kind of break it down to each agent has their own tab. And each TC has their own book. We actually got up to too many agents to all fit in one book now, which I guess is a good problem to have. So each TC has their own book. But they're still shared amongst us because, if one person's out for the day and an agent calls on the phone and they need to know, oh my gosh, when is my inspection period up? Well, it's right there in our book. We have it very simple. And the more simple it is, the less time for errors. So we have all of our notes. Anytime that there's communication between the title, lender, the agent, the TC, there's a note section. So we break it up. We have an address. We always keep track of the date that the contract was accepted, because that's when all our timelines start up. So that needs to be first and foremost. When did any time period start? Then we have our closing date. And then we list what type of financing, because that matters. It's going to matter for appraisals. It's going to matter for times. It's going to matter for a lot of things. So we have that. And then we have a section where we're going to put all of our notes for inspections. What time that inspection is set up. Who's going to be at that inspection. What day the first repair request went out. When it's expected back. All of those notes are very clearly, very detailed written out. So then our next section over of our spreadsheet is notes on the actual loan process. What day was the appraisal ordered? Oh, if it hasn't been ordered, when did I follow up with that lender? And when did I actually get a response? And when is it actually going to be ordered? So if things are slipping through the cracks or somebody's not, doing what they should be doing, because all lenders do what they're supposed to do, we have a timeline of when they're supposed to be doing it, when they're not, so we can see if things are slipping through the cracks. So we can see, okay, well, we're not supposed to close for 2 weeks, but the appraisal hasn't even been ordered yet. So we know now we may have issues then. So we have to start putting out that fire right away. So if you have all this up front, you have all of it in one spot, you're looking at it daily, because RTCs they're in this book daily. They go through, they look Each agent has a tab. They'll start in one agent's tab, look to see what needs to be done for that agent for the day, and start doing it. So they're in there all day, every day, and this is their to-do list. This is what's happened. It also keeps track of what documents are needed, what documents were sent out and not returned yet. Everything is in one spot, and it just makes everything so much easier. I know we've talked a lot about different systems that do these things for you, and I've never been a fan of them because this is so easy. It's so simple. It's so cheap. I love cheap, and it's hard to mess up. You can't mess it up, and you're not spending extra time putting in, because we already use SkySlope, so we already send all of our documents to one place. Yeah, that's because our broker requires it, and they're all there, but it works out great for us because the agents can always go in there and look. We can always go in there and look. So our documents are there. Everything else is on the spreadsheet.
So when you say book, I mean, you're just meaning book is a folder?
Yeah, it's a workbook. So Google calls it a workbook, and that's it. It's the Google workbook.
Awesome.
And so each agent has a tab in that workbook.
Love it. So then with that department, because one thing that's so important, I think, to all organizations is culture. Right? So and I think a lot of team leaders, a mistake that they make is they're so focused on the agent side because that's what's bringing in the deals, and they don't necessarily focus on the culture of the support staff. And from my experience, it's like if an agent leaves your team, yeah, it sucks. But if a good support staff leaves your team, it's freaking hell.
Sucks.
It's like when we were at that, when I was speaking, when I put on that event, and John Cheplack asked me live, he goes, Josh, what would you do if Ashley left? I'm like, if Ashley leaves, that's the time I'm hanging up my helmet in real estate, man, and going on to other things. Because I mean, you've got to take care of your people. And, so outside of, of course, you're providing a job and an income, but it's more important to go beyond that. So like, what are some of the things that we do, or when and Ashley knows this, but you guys don't know this or watch and listen. Anytime I'm with Ashley and I say we, that means Ashley.
It's very true.
Yeah, so when I'm like, hey, we need this, like she knows that right?
That we means I better get on it.
So what are some of the things that you do? Because I'm pretty detached, if you will, because you're really running the show. What are some of the things that you do to really keep the inner? Because you talked about putting out fires, and in real estate, man, I mean, some of these we can maybe you might have 20 closings going great, but 6 fires that just at times it can become a depressing environment. Right? Yeah. If you don't focus on that culture. So like, what are some of the things that you do, to keep it a great culture and keep the energy great in the office?
Well, I mean, ultimately, it really comes down to who you're hiring too. I mean, it's a lot easier to do when you hire the right person up front, which I think we have been very lucky to do. And I don't know if it's so much a discerning eye when you're hiring. It's so much a feel. It's a vibe. So we've been really lucky that the people that we've hired fit our vibe. Because God knows we have an interesting vibe. Not everyone meshes with. So so as long as it's the right people there, the culture comes so naturally and so easily. Like the girls and myself, we all genuinely like each other, which you'd think an office full of 3 girls, there'd be some cattiness, there'd be some nail scratches. There's none of that. And it comes down to liking each other, having fun. I mean, yeah, there are days when you want to rip your own hair out. And then so those are the days that it's like, okay, well, let's go take a break and all go to lunch together. Taco Tuesday. It's things like that we become such good friends, and you have to like who you work with to be able to do that. That you take each other out of those moments. You take each other out of those really crap days. They hang out. We all hang out outside of work together. Again, it just comes down to liking each other. And we all have those same moments. So it's easy to sympathize. It's easy to be like, this agent is and, let that person vent and move on and focus on the positive, focus on all these things that are going great, all the files that, hey, this one just closed, yeah. So it's letting everybody vent for a second and then focusing on, okay, moving on, move forward. And yeah, hanging out outside of work, doing fun things, break up the middle of the day. It helps because it's not always ups.
Yeah. So how important our office is within walking distance of 2 bars? I mean, how important
I wasn't going to bring that up. Okay, well, that helps a lot. Helps a lot. Yeah, I mean, because sometimes, the really, really craptastic days, it's not Taco Tuesday, it's Tequila Tuesday.
Right, yeah. A couple shots of Patron can always help. And then, because I know, and we've kind of had different extremes where it's been like, hey, you've got to be in at this time. If you're a minute late, like, I've been like that.
That didn't work out so well.
At times. And then, well, it didn't work out for the people that hired for us, but plus it didn't work out for me because I just hate micromanagement, right? And now we've got such a relaxed. It's really results based. They kind of pick their own hours as long as they get the results done. Like we're pretty lax.
How you treat people is what you're going to get back, and that's really what it is. Is you set the culture, other than your tyrant days, went back to the culture of being flexible. Like they're all moms. They have kids. They have. Crap comes up, doctor's appointments, no school on this day, even though there's work that day. So you set that culture early on that, hey, as long as shit gets done, go take care of your kid. Go to that assembly. Go to that awards ceremony. Those things are important. We all have families and we all are families. So I would hate the idea of one of those girls missing anything for their kids. So, and they know that, and that's a genuine feeling for everybody. So because there is that flexibility to do so, well, they feel like, okay, he just gave me 4 hours to go be with my kid. I'm going to get home and I'm going to get my shit finished. Well, someone that has been given so much will give so much, and they will work their asses off, which just makes a great environment when everyone feels the same way. When everyone feels like they've been given so many opportunities, they're going to give just as many opportunities.
Yeah, love it. So then when it comes to inspecting what's expected, right? Knock on wood, we've done over 5,000 closings at this point since the inception of the team, and we haven't had any lawsuits, at least that I'm aware of.
I'm not aware.
So yeah, I think we've done good there, right? But I know that that's really due to you inspecting the process. So you talked about our transaction coordinators and they've got their workbooks and they're reviewing it, but I know that you inspect it daily too. What does that look like, and how important is that inspection?
For me, it feels pretty important. You talk about how you don't like to micromanage. I don't so much like to micromanage as I'm one of those people that it was really hard for me to let that stuff go. Because I was the first person that did all that stuff. So for me to let that go at first was super hard. And I had this idea and this feeling that if you're not doing it my way, you're not doing it right. Even though there's a million ways to, as you say, skin a cat. It didn't feel that way for me at first. So I didn't do still. I mean, even though it's a lot, I have 100% confidence in them now. But because of that and because of that feeling, I started that right away. And that's where those workbooks kind of come in handy, because I can go through those and see, okay, well, this is where we should be closing. This is our closing date. This is where they're at in the timeline. Okay, this looks good. There's no problems here. It's the same thing with, we have another workbook that lists all of our closings for each month. And we have so many different agents on so many different split levels because, you've had a team for a long time. So different agents have been here for different amounts of time and have earned different split arrangements. So those all have to be taken into account. And it's, with over 100 agents, it's impossible to remember who's on what. And so there are mistakes that happen there. Yes, we have systems you can go here and find out what that split is. Regardless, mistakes are going to happen. So that's another book that I check constantly. Just, kind of reviewing like, oh, okay, this person's split looks good because our closings have our team split, our agent split, and since it has our agent's name, we know what it's supposed to look like. So that's another thing that I check weekly, daily. And having those workbooks there that everybody can see, that everybody's shared with, makes it super easy. It's less than an hour a day, well, probably more like 30 minutes a day, reading through those to see where they are. And it's not even every day at this point because it's a lot easier. They know now what's expected. Anybody that comes on knows what's expected, knows what those things should look like. And so it makes it a lot easier to go in there and inspect, make sure everything's running the way it should be.
Yeah,
and go about the day.
And I don't ever look at it as micromanagement. One thing that drives me crazy about this business is the lack of, I guess seriousness that a lot of agents approach this business as. It's like, you're helping people. We're blessed and honored to be able to help people with the biggest purchase and sell decisions of their whole entire lifetime. Right? It's pretty serious business, and the reality is mistakes happen, and this just allows you to catch those mistakes. We're all human beings, and human errors are going to happen.
Yep.
Okay, let's transition then on the agent side, because I know, we've got Jeff Ely, who does all the recruiting for the team, but as soon as, he literally recruits them, right? And then once they sign the contract and join the team, then boom, they really go to you and your onboarding process. So what does that initial onboarding process look like for an agent?
So initially they go through your video training, which I don't know how many hours that is, like 40 or so hours and more. So initially that's their first assignment, I guess I could call it, is to watch all of those videos, absorb them, watch them a couple times if they have time. Then when they're comfortable with that, they go on to what we call new agent training. And that's kind of honestly a lot of what the video training is, but live. So they can stop, they can ask questions, they can do it hands-on. They can see it again, which repetition is really the only way to learn something. From there, we have what we call accountability meetings, and that's not necessarily just for newer agents, that's for all of our agents, because part of this team is accountability. It's being held accountable for what you say you're going to do. You have big goals, big commitments. It's a lot easier to achieve those things if you're being held accountable by a group of people, a group of your peers. So we have those weekly. We also have, we do call sessions weekly for the agents where there's a lot of script training, that's what a lot of it is, because that's something that especially new agents come in and they have no idea. They know how to pick up the phone, but they don't know how to overcome objections. They don't know how to answer odd questions that come up. So that live in-person training is really helpful and important to them. And from there, it's, meetings and extra trainings when they need it, some contract training, things like that.
Yep, love it. So then I know we just kind of kicked off our first, because culture is really important to us, and we want to have fun with it, and like you said, with the call sessions, even the call sessions, we have them, we bring in food, even bring in, beer and alcohol, and, kind of, for a new agent especially, a couple beers or a couple shots, kind of makes it a little easier to start picking up that phone and dialing. But talk to us about this new competition that we started doing, because it seems like it's, I haven't seen the results fully yet. We probably won't see those results for 60 to 90 days after the competition's over in whole, but it just seems like, holy crap. We have more people doing way more open houses, showing up to call sessions, and, and the reality is, dude, is a lot of realtors, and not just realtors, but human beings are, we're money motivated, but a lot of us are, I know for me, I'm way more competitive than money. Like, I want to win way more than I want money.
Yeah, and I'm learning that about some of our teammates right now. Yeah. So this 90-day challenge is the agents get a point for each open house they do. They get a point for each call session that they do, and they get each 3 Facebook leads equals 1 point. So so we wanted to do it to where it was a level playing field, an agent that just got licensed this week versus an agent that's been licensed for 5 years was going to be able to have the same results as far as the point system. They didn't want to give anybody an unfair advantage. So, which is interesting because the person in second right now got licensed the same week the contest started. So it goes to show you that it is definitely a level playing field. And it has created a lot of shit talking, which is super fun to watch. And we're only about 45 days in, so we're halfway through. Actually, tomorrow is our 45th day. And people are doing a boatload of open houses, which is creating a boatload of appointments, which can only benefit your business. So it's kind of fun. And the prizes, I think the prizes are very motivating. It's not only just the, being better than the guy sitting next to you and getting to talk shit to him that you have a full-time job, he doesn't, but you're still doing better than him in the contest. It's also the prizes at the end. So first place prize is a trip to San Diego I think it's 3 nights and $500 spending cash. So when I told my husband that, he asked if we were going to start doing open houses or anything. The second place prize is a MacBook Air. The third place prize is an iPad. Fourth place is a Bluetooth headset, all the call sessions. And fifth place prize is 2 GSD shirts. So, I mean, those are freaking amazing prizes. So I don't know why anybody wouldn't want to participate. I mean, a MacBook Air? Really? For a contest? Like, it's pretty freaking amazing. So, and the people participating are super stoked and excited. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, love it, man. And so yeah, it's been cool, man. I mean, because like for example, with the tracking it, you know, for their open houses, they have to record a video and put it in our secret Facebook group, and you know, just seeing that. I mean, I haven't seen that much activity. It seems like I don't know if ever.
If ever, no. It's definitely created some buzz. Yeah. So it's fun to watch.
Yep, love it. So then, you know, I know one thing that we're big with, of course, on the support staff side, but also the agent side is. When an agent delivers their goals to you, you know, hey Ashley, I want to make $100,000 this year, whatever it may be. You know, we're big into dialing in a business plan that shows them the exact amount of effort. You know, right? Really boiling that down to daily, plus our tracking systems that can show if they're on track. So when it comes to, I mean, how important do you think that is for agents when it comes to the tracking in those plans?
Critical. If you don't. To set the goal and to know exactly what you have to do to reach the goal. How are you going to reach a goal if you don't know how to get there? I mean, that's a wish. It's not a goal at that point. So you have to absolutely know the numbers, know what you have to do, how many dials you have to make, how many open houses you have to set to be able to get there. And then secondly, the tracking. Well, how do you know if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing if you're not tracking it? Like, maybe I can't a month ago tell you how many open houses I did 2 weeks ago. So then you don't know if you're going to hit your numbers. It's completely unpredictable and unreliable to just fly by the seat of your pants. So it's 100% critical, necessary. Know your numbers. Know what you have to do. Know what you want first. A lot of people don't even know what they want. They just want to crush it. So knowing what you want, whether it's this many closings or these many dollars, you have to start there. Get clear on what you want, and then here's the exact path of what you have to do.
So you said earlier of you know, with the teammates, especially the support staff, how you know you guys all have families, but you are family, and this is one thing that you're really good at and I'm really bad at. You know, right? Which is separating the two. You know, and I think that for those that are watching and listening, this is really important for you to. You got to identify your strengths and weaknesses and your vulnerabilities. And it's like I look at like Andrew Carnegie, right, the second richest guy that's ever existed on the planet. When he realized he wanted to beat out Rockefeller as the richest guy on the planet, he knew he didn't personally have the backbone to do what needed to happen inside his company. So not only did he hire a CEO to do those things, he left the country. And back then,
don't do that.
Back then you had to only communicate via ship, via letter. So he knew he couldn't even be in the same area, right? So, and then that's something that you know we've identified with. That's a weakness of mine. Of I develop relationships and I cave in, or sometimes I because our kids start hanging out together and these things, and I have a very difficult time having those hard conversations, even if it's an employee that we have those relationships with. But you're really good at it, right? So you've been able to separate that. How do you separate it? How do you go from one moment? Because I know it's not. Like I said, it's not. I'm the worst at it, so it's not. It's not easy for me. Right? I mean, I'm terrible at it. So how do you separate those two things when it comes to that?
Honestly, it's a learned trait. It didn't come naturally. And I learned it by accident, because let's be honest, there are days we work together and have not liked each other. It's just the way it is. And so, but I made a commitment when I joined your team that I'm going to work for him and I'm going to be behind him when he's the best. So even on those days where I didn't so much like you, I wanted to come in and do my best. And so that was a commitment I made. And so that's where I learned it, that hey, you know what? You don't have to be his friend today. Maybe you'll be his friend tomorrow. But this is a promise you made. This is your job. And damn it, woman, get up and do it. So it is something that I've gotten a little better with it as time has gone on. And I just realized that to me, I have a big responsibility, and I take it super seriously. having this position in Revisto is important to me, and that's my number one. And granted, I love everybody and everybody's friends and family, but at the end of the day, I have to say, okay, well, this is my job, this is what I committed to, and this is what I'm going to do. It's not going to ruin friendships, because they're going to have respect for me that this is what I do and this is what I said I was going to do. So for me, that's what it is. I used to feel bad. I used to feel guilty, but now it's like, no, I'm going to be respected for doing the right thing, and it's a learned trait.
Yeah, I used to have agents come to me all the time. They'd be like, "Oh, Josh, dude, I'm having a tough month this month. Can you give me a better split on this deal this month? Because I can't feed my family this month." And I'd cave into it. But then the reality is, if I'm having a bad month, I can't go to them and do the reverse. So at that point, I was like, okay, I can't have anybody come to me. They all have to go to Ashley.
It's also another thing that helped me learn this trait is watching that too many times. I would see what you had done on the back end of it, and I was like, gosh, he caved again. Why does he do it? And I know why you do it. You have a huge heart, and it's funny because actually John Cheplack and I have said this several times. It's one of the things I love about you and one of the things I hate about you. So your big heart has shown me that sometimes you put those decisions before the ones that grow your business. And some people might say that those are the wrong decisions, but I don't, because ultimately at the end of the day, we're trying to grow a business, and your friends, all of them, whether they're agents, support staff, should respect your decisions that you're growing a business.
Yeah, and those that are watching and listening, if you suffer from that, like obviously we publicly talked about, I do here, it doesn't mean that you can't grow a business, right? You hire people that their strengths are your weaknesses, and Ashley and I have meshed so well over a decade and been able to build this real estate team the way that we have over the decade together, because her strengths are 100% my weaknesses, and potentially vice versa, right? So got to align yourself with the right people. So we have our Revisto Real Estate PlayBook, right? So if you look at the top sports teams, obviously they have their playbooks, and it's like Vince Lombardi said, I don't care if my competition has my playbook, they can know our plays. If we execute and master the fundamentals, they can't block us, right? But if I look at any job that I had that was at a great company, even if it was a hospital, they had an operations manual, everybody knew what to follow, but a lot of real estate agents and teams won't put together a playbook. Like, this is like our team Bible, right? So everybody's on the same page. Everybody knows what to be doing, when to be doing it, in every aspect of their business. And we didn't always have it this way, right? We didn't always have it so systematic. It was really just flying from the seat of our pants for a lot of years. How important do you think it is for teams or brokerages out there to create a playbook that everybody knows what to be doing?
It has been a game changer for us, because all of our, you called it a Bible, that's literally what all the agents call it too, because it is there, it's marked, they know exactly where to go to get any answers they want. They get a Facebook lead. OMG, what do I do now? You go to this page, and it tells you exactly how you're going to follow up with that Facebook lead. You have an open house lead that didn't answer the first 2 times you call them. You go to that Bible, and it tells you exactly what to do next. It has been a game changer. There aren't any more questions. If they have a question, they don't know how to move forward from something, there it is. It's not just follow-up. It's goals. It's, okay, I really don't know how to set up my goals. I don't know how to see numbers and see how many open houses I have to do to make these many dollars. It's there in the Bible, just like everything else. So it has been a complete game changer.
Yeah, years ago, Ashley and I, we got to a point where, because you'd have agents that, you get certain people that just have a victim mindset, right? That have that entitlement, and they would blame the team or the lack of training on their lack of success. And, like a lot of things that get born out of frustration, we were just like, hey, let's create a process and a team where there is no guesswork. You either choose to do the work or you choose not to do the work. And those that do the work have success. Those that choose not to do the work aren't going to have success. But if they're not having success, they can never come back to us and say, it's your fault.
Right.
It's like, no,
there's no excuses. There's no excuses.
Yeah, love it. So when it comes to agents, inside our organization, what do you see? Because you're dealing with all of the agents on a daily basis. What do you see the difference between because we have agents, one of our top agents, I think 2 months ago, closed like 50 G's in commissions after splits. Just had a monster month, and almost every single month on average, our top agents are doing 30 plus grand after splits in their pocket, right, with no other fees outside of really gas in their car. What do you think the big differences are? If you could boil it down to just a few differences between them compared to maybe an agent that's been on the team, because we have a lot of agents on the team that haven't closed a deal in 6 months. Right? What's that difference?
That's so simple. Consistency. Those people that are in the top few every month in our team are the people that consistently do what they say they're going to do. They consistently do open houses. They consistently call expireds. They consistently call FSBOs. They don't let up. And even those people at the top tell me that when they have an off month, it's because they quit doing stuff. 100% consistency. Even for the brand new agents, I just got licensed. I've been on the team a month. If they do what's laid out for them to do for a month consistently and keep going, they could easily be one of the number 1, 2, 3 agents. It's not experience. It's not time in the game. I mean, granted, you're going to have referrals and stuff that maybe a brand new agent wouldn't have, but consistency is by far what sets them apart.
Yeah, and that seems to hold true in every aspect of life, right?
Yes.
It's like the only magic pill that exists is consistency, right? So you always have, it seems like in every organization, you always have, and there's charts out there that say, okay, you've got your top 20%, you've got your middle 60%, your bottom 20%, and in pretty much any company, especially when it comes to sales, right? But that middle that top 20% are those people that you may not have to talk to them for a year.
Never.
You don't have to give them any leads. Like they're going to produce no matter what.
Rock stars.
But that middle 60%, which really can make or break your company. Yeah. They go out there, they kick ass, they produce, but they need that frequent check-in, and they need that accountability, if you will.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you do, let's just say on either a daily or a weekly basis, to kind of keep those people inspired, accountable, and those influencer, or that 60% influencer group?
Really just checking in with them. Hey, do you have any open houses set up this weekend? Checking in with them and reminding them that I'm here to see how they're doing, to hold them accountable, to make sure they're doing what they said they were going to do, because ultimately a lot of it is that's what it is. They say they're going to do something, and then something gets in the way. Life gets in the way. Life always gets in the way. So I may help them figure out how to stop letting little things get in the way, whether it's setting up time blocking schedules. I do a lot of that, helping agents time block their schedules to make themselves more efficient. So that sort of thing. Checking in, setting schedules, holding them to it. So because I'll call them out in front of people.
So for a team leader that's maybe watching or listening to this, or a broker owner, I mean, because really when you break it down, teams are what? A brokerage inside a brokerage, right? I mean, is really what they've expanded to, and we've definitely done. Would you recommend like weekly at a minimum checking in with each agent? I mean, what?
Yeah, absolutely. Weekly. Yeah, I mean, because a lot can happen in a week, and a lot can happen to an agent's mindset in a week. It's amazing how an agent can go from flying high, feeling good, top of the mountain, get knocked down, and their mindset can really change really quickly. So checking in weekly can kind of keep them pumped, keep them excited, and keep them consistent, keep them moving.
Yep, love it. So one thing I know that you're big on is self-development, right? I mean, we of course got you, we have a coach in the real estate team here that just because I'm such a big believer in always having coaches. So I have coaches, you have coaches. But I know that you're also an avid reader, and you're always working on your own personal growth. I mean, how important do you feel that is to your overall success, is your self-development?
You know what? I haven't necessarily always been into self-development. In fact, I probably shunned it for a little while. To me, self-development was learning. So I would read a lot of articles, a lot of court case studies about real estate, because that was what I found interesting. And those are the kind of questions that I was always asked. So that's what I would learn about. I love real estate law stuff, totally geek out about it. So that's what I learned about. And that's what I used to consider self-development, just educate. And it wasn't until recently where I'm, kind of changed seats that I realized, oh, wait a minute, maybe you should be working on yourself, not just your brain. So to be honest, that part of it's all a little new to me. Reading actual books and not articles and case studies is a little bit different, but actually something that I have come to realize how important it was. It's not just, putting new information and research stuff into your brain. Now it's figuring out how your brain works, why it works this way, and how to get it to work the way you want. Brain, heart, mind, body, all of it. So I have probably just this year really realized how important it is. And it's kind of exciting. It's crazy how self-development can, I guess that's why it's called self-development, can literally develop you into something that you want to be, something that you aspire to be. I used to be just okay with just learning new things, not necessarily figuring out how to grow as a person. I was just growing my mind, not as a person. So to change seats and do new things, I had to grow as a person. Oh, okay. So I enjoy it now.
Yeah, love it. So with that being said, as you've been on this new journey, do you have any recommended books for our audience that have really just blown you away, that have had a big impact?
Yeah, and you've been talking about this one a lot too, Essentialism. I could tell by how excited you were when you talked about it at first that I should probably read it. And so when I did, it's eye-opening, it's mind-opening, it's heart-opening. It's interesting to realize, what's important and what's not important. And those are really questions that I had never thought about asking myself, that book, that now I realize I need to be asking myself every day. So as soon as I got to the last page, right back to page 1, like in the same minute. And so I'm on my second time now, and it's been a life changer, not just a game changer, but a life changer. It's a good one.
Definitely one of probably my favorite books since Think and Grow Rich. Right? It's been insane. So you talked about reading it twice. Mm-hmm. Most people just read books really just to get through the book. I talk to so many people. They're like, oh, read this book. I'm like, okay, well, what was your favorite part? How did you apply it in your life and your business, and what impact does it have? And they're like, well, I don't really know. I'm like, all right, so you got through the book, and maybe it made you feel good, maybe it tickled your ears a little bit, but you didn't really become anything from it. So what's your take on that?
That used to be me. That's actually why I didn't read, because I would get to the end of a book and I couldn't remember what I just read. And maybe it was because it didn't interest me enough, I'm not sure. But when I got to the end of Essentialism, I realized that I felt like I got it, but I felt like, oh, I really need to get this. I knew that it was important enough that I needed to get through it again. And there's a lot of questions in that one that to ask yourself and to ask daily. And when I went through it, I didn't necessarily write any of those down. I didn't go through the process the way I really wanted to, because I just wanted to get all the info out of it, which is my nerd brain. So I needed to go back in with like my heart instead. So that's why I decided, I'm just going to do it right away. Start fresh and go through it the right way and actually get something out of it. Because the first time I read a book, I don't remember anything.
Yeah. It's not about getting through, it's getting from it.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So one thing that we see with a lot of real estate agents, and I see this more with real estate agents really than any other business that I've ever been involved in, as soon as they get that big commission check, they're the first ones to go blow. They're the first ones to buy the BMW, and they're the first ones to do these things. And we've seen it kind of unfortunately crumble a lot of real estate agents on the team that were on their path to success, but they kind of once they got to this level, then they upped their lifestyle to this level. And I know that you and your family are huge Dave Ramsey advocates, and you guys are very, very financially responsible, if you will, if that's the right term. But what kind of advice would you give on finances and budget and living below your means for real estate agents? And because also as you've witnessed, markets shift, and one day maybe you're bringing in 30, 40, 50 grand a month as an agent, and then the next day it all stops, right? So what kind of advice do you have there?
A budget and a savings. There's no other way to go. You have an emergency fund. You have a 6-month emergency fund. And if you just become an agent, you don't start spending until you have a fund, because it is going to stop one day. I don't care if you get sick for 3 weeks, you break a leg and can't walk for a few weeks, your pipeline dries up. You have to start all over. You're not getting a check for a month or more. So planning ahead and realizing that if you're not working, you're not making money, and having a budget every month. These are my bills. This is what I make. Not going over that. There's no reason to go over that. And that emergency fund for an agent. Don't start spending like you're a baller until you have a baller account.
Yeah.
That's not going anywhere. That emergency fund, you don't mess with it. You don't move it. You don't touch it. It's for when you do not work for a few weeks and that check dries up. That's what you have to go back on. Otherwise, you're not paying your bills.
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately, a lot of people have to learn through pain, and I did, right?
Well,
I was making money as soon as I could, or spending as soon as I made it, and and I was trying to somewhat budget. I didn't have the emergency fund, but I was allocating for taxes, and then our first daughter was born, and we had some complications there, so we got a huge hospital bill we didn't have insurance for. That then ate up my tax fund,
Right.
and next thing you know, I'm $40,000 short of the IRS, and the IRS isn't kind when it's like the CIA couldn't bring down Al Capone, the IRS did. I always say that if Bin Laden owed the IRS money, they would have caught him years before, right?
Yep.
So, I love it. Hey, you guys, are you checking that? Do we have any comments or any questions?
Just comments. We got Mary Vega saying to buy Essentialism, and then everybody saying they love Ashley.
Aw, thanks,
Boom.
guys.
Awesome. All right, dude. So, when I started this podcast, I really wanted to create a place where, because in this day and age, man, there's a lot of good information available, but there's vastly more shitty information that exists out there, right? So I wanted to create a place where we could go out there and interview the doers. Have people like yourself that are in the trenches, that this stuff isn't theory, it's actual strategy that they've learned and having success with. One on a selfish, I use this as my self-development where I get to pick brilliant minds all day long. And then two, to give back to an industry that's really changed both of our lives, right? So those that are watching and listening right now are here because they want to go out there and create an amazing life for themselves and for their families. So what advice or maybe any last words or inspiration that you would have to give them so they can go do exactly that?
Thanks for the warning on that one. Gosh, just remember when you wake up in the morning, remember what your why is. A lot of people, and know what the right why is. I think a lot of people have a false why. In an interview you did with Camille, she talked about how I'll know you get to your why when you cry. And I think that is so true. And everybody need to have a crying why. Otherwise, you're not going to get up in the morning and be your best. You're not going to do your best. You're not going to go home and go out there and kill the meat and bring it back to your family if you don't know your right why. And write it down, put it on the wall, look at it every day. I think that is that's what makes you do. That's what makes you get up and do every day, even on the days you don't want to do.
Yeah, it's like once you get your why or purpose or however you want to phrase it, it's like you no longer focus at the activity at hand. You're focused on the result it brings.
Absolutely.
And it just changes the game. So powerful words. Those that are watching and listening, I know I end every podcast with this, you guys, but information without implementation truly is just the start of delusion. Information today is no longer power. It's taking that information, taking massive action on it that creates power inside your world, right? So you just listen to Ashley drop a lot of amazing knowledge on you guys today. What she does absolutely works. As you guys have seen here, I mean, she really runs and operates our team and is really the CEO of the team leader of our real estate team. So again, you guys heard so many amazing pieces of advice. They take something that you learned, go out there and implement it, immediately take action now. Thank you guys for watching and listening. And Ashley, this has been a huge honor, man. It's been awesome having you on the show. I appreciate you doing this.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Peace out. All right, peeps, that wraps up today.